This is Team Level Up, and this week we're going to answer your questions. With interest rates rising, what are some things you need to be considering when trying to sell or buy a home? So, what are we thinking?
Rates are going up. I'm sure people are seeing it in the news. A lot of questions around what's going on in the financial world, and we're seeing a lot of fluctuation. Honestly, probably more rapidly than we ever thought we would expect so far this year. But it's still, I mean, there's still opportunities out there. There's still creative ways to kind of control and combat some of the rising rates. But there's a few things we need to consider. So, I mean, we deal with this all day, every day. So make sure you're talking to somebody like ourselves or a lender. Make sure you're understanding some of these nuances. But anything you kind of jumps off the table, for the folks out there listening to consider around the rate world?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a couple of things that you need to consider. Knowing your numbers, talk with your lenders, figure out what your monthly payment's going to be at 4% interest rate, 5% interest rate, go up to 6%. So you can work your numbers backwards. So this way, if you're being quoted at a certain amount, if and when interest rates do continue to rise, you're not freaking out and knowing where your monthly payment's going to change to. And also, if you're looking at new construction, thinking about the timeline of when that's going to close, because if interest rates are at X today, by the time you close in a few months from now, interest rates are going to be at Y. And so just making sure that you know the difference between going under contract and locking at a rate and planning for that as you move forward.
Yeah, real quick on that point, on rate locks, people I think are somewhat familiar with the topic, and maybe not. It kind of gets buried into the whole mortgage process. But as you're going through the purchase process of a real estate transaction, the lender's going to ask you to lock into a rate. A lot of times people play games with that. They're like, hey, what's it going to do? Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up? I'll hold off. At this point, where we are at the April timeframe in 2022, I would lock in that rate pretty quickly, as quickly as you can. I think the rate is going to probably continue to rise for the foreseeable future. I don't think it's going to get crazy, but it has increased drastically from kind of the start of the year. Make sure you're talking to that lender and understand the timing of that rate lock. A lot of times they're only good for a 60-day period, a 45-day period. I think as the market's pretty volatile in that industry, you're going to see lenders kind of change their timing on that. So just make sure you're educated about what the rate lock entails, how long is it, maybe what the cost is to extend it. God forbid the transaction takes a little bit longer. So just something to be thinking about is that rate lock category. So anything else, guys, that were kind of some topics in the mortgage industry?
Yeah, I think maybe another option is talk to your lender about a rate buy down. Get that down a little bit so your monthly payment, maybe have a little bit of extra cash from selling your home or, in the bank, and you're like, I don't want, my interest rate to be this high. I don't want that much of a monthly payment. I want to be able to control that. So we can put a little cash at buying down your rate. And I think something else to consider is, Chuck, you and I bought a house in 2005. And, at that time we were told these rates are historically low. This is unbelievable. Our rate was 6%. Yeah. And I think both of ours were right at 6%. And we're like, this is an incredible rate. Let's buy now. That's what everybody's telling us. So I think it's still important to consider that these rates are still low comparative to, the 70s, 80s when they were in double-digit rates. So it's not impossible to buy a home with these interest rates.
100% agree with that. Everybody's looking at the rates and they think they're skyrocketing now, which they have. But if you're just comparing it to the last year or two, skyrocketing. And if you're looking over the last 40 years, historically low. Yeah. Like, it's not bad rates right now if you look in the grand picture of things. The other thing that I want to echo is what Alex said, is a lot of buyers today tend to think that if the home affordability isn't going to change with the interest rate. So if you're looking to buy a home for $500,000 at 4%, when that rate goes up to 5%, you may not be able to afford that $500,000 homes. It is so important for you to understand how much home you can afford based on what the interest rate is. Talk with your lender, talk to us, let's get that information for you because things are changing fast today.
Awesome. I don't have anything else to add.
Yeah, that's great, Ever.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And like always, if we can ever help answer any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us and be happy to help. Take care.